There are people who deeply crave connection, yet still avoid people at the same time. They want someone to text them first, but ignore notifications when they finally arrive. They want to feel understood, chosen, emotionally safe with someone, but somewhere along the way, connection stopped feeling safe. Psychology explains that this often happens when emotional closeness becomes associated with disappointment, misunderstanding, or emotional exhaustion. Some people fear being misunderstood more than they fear loneliness itself. They overthink every interaction, every tone change, every delayed reply, and eventually vulnerability starts to feel dangerous instead of comforting. So instead of risking disappointment, they stay distant even when they secretly want closeness. Others learned too early that they had to handle everything alone. They stopped asking for help, stopped expecting emotional support, and slowly convinced themselves that depending on people only leads to disappointment. So now, even when they struggle, they say, "I'm fine," because relying on others feels unfamiliar. Some people avoid relationships because they no longer want shallow connections. Small talk drains them, fake energy exhausts them. They don't want attention from everyone. They want depth, honesty, and emotional safety. And because genuine connection feels rare, they'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who still make them feel lonely. Psychology also shows that highly observant people often become socially exhausted faster because their mind constantly analyzes human behavior. They notice energy shifts, forced smiles, awkward pauses, and subtle changes others ignore. One uncomfortable interaction can replay in their mind for days. So eventually, avoiding people feels emotionally easier than constantly overthinking social situations. At the same time, many of these people secretly wish someone would understand them without needing a long explanation. They want someone to notice their silence, their emotional distance, or their exhaustion without being forced to put everything into words. But when nobody notices, they start convincing themselves that nobody truly cares, which pushes them even further into isolation. And for many, this pattern comes from painful past experiences. A lot of emotionally avoidant people were once extremely open until they were betrayed, ignored, abandoned, emotionally invalidated, or hurt by the people they trusted most. After enough emotional pain, the brain starts associating closeness with danger. So now they crave connection carefully. They want love, friendship, and understanding, but they also expect disappointment at the same time. That's why they sometimes pull away the moment things start feeling real. Not because they don't care, but because part of them is already preparing for loss before it even happens. And the hardest part is this: people who avoid others are often the same people who think about connection the most. They imagine deep conversations, emotional safety, and finally feeling understood by someone. But fear, overthinking, and emotional self-protection keep getting in the way. So if you crave connection while avoiding people, it doesn't necessarily mean you're cold, antisocial, or broken. Sometimes it simply means you became emotionally tired. Tired of fake relationships, tired of explaining yourself, tired of getting attached and feeling disappointed. But psychology also reminds us that isolation is not always healing. Sometimes healing begins when you finally meet people who make your nervous system feel calm instead of anxious people who don't force you to perform, don't punish vulnerability, and don't make connection feel emotionally heavy. Because deep down, even people who love solitude still want a place and people where they can emotionally rest.